Hey guys, welcome back to the Texas State Theory Test, Grade 7. In this video, we're going to be going over questions 3 and 4, so let's get started. Question 3 says, in each measure, draw a circle around the higher sounding note of each pair of notes. So pretty much, all you have to do is tell me which one of these is higher. Now, the easiest way to do this is just to remember where middle C is. So, I'm going to mark middle C here in the treble with this line, and then I'm going to mark middle C here in the bass with that line. Okay, so notice that this first one in the treble clef, this would be an A, because if this line is C, then the space below it would be B, then this one would be A. That A would be the same. If I drew this A in the bass clef, it would be here. So which one of these notes is higher? Obviously, it would be B. So I'm going to take this, erase a whole bunch of it, and I'm going to circle B right here. That's the higher sounding note. Alright, the next one. Here I have a middle C, and here I have a B that's below middle C. So if B is below middle C, that must mean middle C is higher. So this would be the higher note. Okay, moving on to the next one. Here I have a G in the bass clef. Here I have an A in the treble clef. But this A would be the same if I drew it in the bass clef as right here. These two would be the same. So therefore the A must be higher than that G. Alright, so that's the higher sounding note. Okay, here I have an A. Here I have a G flat. Not a B flat, that's a G flat. This G flat is lower than the A, so this would be the higher sounding note. And that's all of question 3. Let's move on to question number 4. It says, identify each interval by type and size on the lines below each measure. Intervals will be major or perfect. Example, major second, perfect fifth. Okay, so you've done intervals before. You know how to do that. Now we have to discuss the difference between major and perfect, or more specifically, which intervals are major and which intervals are perfect. I'm not going to tell you why they're considered major and why they're considered perfect. I'm just going to have you memorize which ones are major and which ones are perfect. Alright, so let's take this blank spot right here, and let's start with the perfect intervals. So PER for perfect. Perfect intervals are unison, fourths, fifths, and octaves. Those are the perfect intervals. Everything else is major. So major would be MAJ, which would equal let me divide this up right here. These are the perfect intervals, and then the major intervals would be second, third, sixth, and seventh. Alright, so there are your majors, there are your perfects. Let's move on to the first example. Okay, so here I have a line, 2 lines, and 1 space. That's a third. Are thirds major or perfect? Well, if you go by what I just told you, thirds are major. Okay. Let's take a look at this one. I have 2 lines. I have 2 spaces. That would be a fourth in total. Fourths are perfect. Okay. Let's take a look at this one. I have 2 lines and 3 spaces. That would be a fifth, and fifths are perfect. Alright, perfect fifth right there. Last one, I have a line, I have a space, and so that is a second, and seconds are major. Now, I'm gonna take it back. I'm gonna explain to you kind of why they're considered major and why they're considered perfect. Okay, so let's just take, we'll just use this measure right here. Okay, if I take C, I'm going to take C, and I'm going to go up a perfect fifth, right? If I invert a perfect fifth, if I invert it, that means I take C, and I move it on top, then this would be a fourth. This is my fifth right here between C and G. If C is on bottom and G is on top, then that is a fifth. If I invert it, it becomes a fourth. A perfect interval will always invert to a perfect interval every single time. But a major interval will invert to a minor interval every time. And I'm not going to explain to you the difference between major and minor and perfect. You know, how can you tell whether or not it's major or minor or perfect. Just trust me when I say a major interval inverts to a minor interval. A perfect interval inverts to a perfect interval. That's why perfect is called perfect and major is called major. We will go into more detail in that in the higher up grades, but just for now, that's the basic explanation. Alright, I believe that's all of question 3 and 4. Keep studying, keep practicing, and I will see you in the next video.